I have one final question that's a quick one. I studied with another teacher named Ramtha. He's a channeled being, channeled by J.Z. Knight, and he's not in physical. He's non-physical, but he's definitely not an Abraham type of being in that you come from a little bit different emphasis. Who and what would he be? I mean, he's not physical and he's not the Abraham non-physical. How would you describe who he is as a teacher?
He would be better to tell you that.
Oh, can I ask him through you?
Ask him.
I'd like to know who you are, who Ramtha is.
Oh, well, we're talking about go to Ramtha and say, who be you? And what would he say? I am Ramtha!
Well, I'm more curious not in his teachings. But as you describe people who are in physical and people who are in non-physical, but there just seems to be a difference. Like not all non-physical are the same.
Well, there are endless interpretations of energy and endless bridges of energy and endless thought forms. In other words, the best way that we could describe that, and we really mean it when we say it is better to ask Ramtha who Ramtha is in the scheme of all of this than someone else, because everyone, whether they are non-physical or not, has their perspective of what they are perceiving. Mm-hmm. That was one of the things, it was about the one known as Ramtha that caused Esther in the very early days to ask a very powerful question. She said, Abraham, if you guys can't get your story straight, I'm not going to play this game. Because she was hearing things that were coming from those who had visited with Ramtha that were different than what she was hearing from us. What you are beginning to understand, Jerry and Esther have been talking a great deal about this, is that everyone, physical or non-physical, stands in their place of perception, and your point of attraction is really an individual thing. But to answer your question in general and somewhat satisfying terms, this is the way we would describe that. Everyone who is physically focused, that's one of the primary distinctions of the one known as Ramtha and Abraham as we are presenting ourselves to you here, in that we say to you that you are the extensions of that which we are, but we are standing in the place of non-physical. And often when people say, Abraham, will you ever be physical again? We always say, there is a flaw in the premise of your question, because the implication is that you have to be physical or non-physical, when the fact of it is with us, we are non-physical energy standing in this vortex while you are the extension out here on the physical leading edge of creation. So, as you come forth into your physical expression and you be, that's what Ramtha says. Ramtha talks about the warrior that he was. As you come forth into your physicality and you are standing in your physical form and you are perceiving life through your physical form, you are an energy being more than the flesh, blood, and bone being that you are. And when other humans perceive you and acknowledge you, their attention of you actually adds to the creation of the energy around you. In other words, when you leave your physical bodies and you reemerge back into the fullness of who you are, the vibration of that which you were still remains for a while with most as a thought form. In other words, someone who's sensitive to energy could pick up on the energy that swirled around you. And the more you have been known in your physicality, the more that energy swirls, the bigger it is, the more dynamic it is, and the longer it lasts once you leave. So long after someone famous makes their transition into non-physical, as many physical beings continue to focus upon them, that energy remains active to some degree. It takes on a sort of new life of its own. It's what we refer to as thought form. And that thought form then becomes something that actually can be translatable. So we are not for a moment. So first we're wanting to say, so as this one known as Ramtha makes transition back into the non-physical, that non-physical energy is there, and we're not suggesting that there is not a connection between the non-physical energy and the physical energy. But what we are saying is that thought form that remained and the physicality of it, the persona of that which remained in the physical, was a larger part of what was at least at first received as the personality. And that's why the translation of who I am, it was very different from that which Abraham is. We want to say that everyone who is physically focused is an extension of source energy. And we also want to say that this non-physical energy of source, it would be very difficult for you to separate yourself from your inner being. And it would be very difficult for you to separate your inner being from the energy that is Abraham. And it would be very difficult for you to separate the energy of Abraham from the energy that which man calls God. In other words, it truly is this stream of energy. But there are all of these perspectives of that energy that are now playing off of one another for the purpose of the expansion of the universe. And it really doesn't matter very much where any of it began. What really matters is where it is at the point of your rendezvous with it. Is that helpful?
That makes sense. Yes.
Good time for a segment of reflection.
Thank you.